My name is Julie Tocheri, and welcome to Stage and Manner. Yeah, it depends what I'm doing. So if I'm doing a game, if I'm doing color commentary or play-by-play, it's generally hockey for me. I'm a hockey nerd. That is all paper. Like, I have a bunch of pieces of paper. Victor Finley, who I assume is a legend in these parts. Have you guys heard stories about him like getting in so much trouble for printing out 1 million sheets of paper yeah. So it's always paper if I'm doing play-by-play, and that is a Google search of every single person who is going to be on the ice, and everybody's layout is kind of different. I have little boxes for every player on the team, and I go by lines and D pairings and netminders after that. Google search of every person on the team. I go through their DB, I find any article that's ever been written about them, and then generally, if prominent players, I'll see if I can get in touch with coaches, and obviously before a game, you'll go down and chat with the coaches and the assistant coaches. The radio is kind of a new beast for me, so preparing for a different show every single day is interesting, and it's a show about a specific team, so obviously preparation is going to the Leafs game, going to media availability after, asking questions whenever I have the courage to, because honestly, people are they fire off questions in there. So doing that, and then there's a whole team that helps me prepare for broadcast now, which is a really very big luxury, in terms of people who feed me interesting stats, in terms of people who will send interesting things my way. The night before, I'll sit down for about 45 minutes and go through all of that information. I'll compile information of my own, and I'll text sources I have with the team to see if I can get any information there. And then the morning of, I go through all that information, and we put together a rundown, and we put together a show. So kind of depends what I'm preparing for, but it always looks like a lot of time on my computer. I always just talk to experts. Twitter is kind of a gross space at times in the sports world, obviously, but it's also a really powerful tool in terms of like all these smart people on the internet give you this valuable information a lot of the time, and a lot of them are really receptive to answering questions. A weird one that I do is I'll go through players' Instagrams and their Twitters, especially if I'm doing play-by-play or color or ringside, because there's always sometimes there's a connection with somebody on the other team, or sometimes there's a connection with, there's always something cool, like you always find something interesting. There's no sport that's really, really in left field for me, but it definitely requires more preparation if it's non-sport you're super, super comfortable with. The old saying, work smart, not hard, comes to mind when talking about this sort of thing. In university, when I was preparing to do play-by-play for, I remember preparing to do play-by-play for my first OHL game, and I was like a wreck. I was so nervous, and I sat at the Ryerson Student Learning Center for 15 hours. Why? I don't know. I don't think I learned that much in 15 hours. After like 6 hours, my brain probably shut off. And I was just like getting too deep into details, things nobody cared about. I was going down rabbit holes. So I think I just keep my research more concise and relevant now, as opposed to just panicking and looking for these big, broad things. I'm definitely more concise in my research now. But radio's helped me get really good at that. Of course, it depends what you're talking about. Obviously, there's nowhere to prepare if you're going to have to fill. So the whole point of filling is like you don't have any time to prepare, and you're on the spot, and the camera's on you, or the mic's on, and your producer says we got nothing, or your guest didn't show up, and then you think, okay. So if my guest doesn't show up, and I'm doing Leafs lunch, I look at the questions I had for my guest, because I don't know, you don't really ask a question to a guest that you don't kind of already know the gist of the answer to, right? You generally ask questions so you can get a conversation going, and bring up points to the audience that they might not know about. So I generally follow the rundown if I have a guest drop or something like that, and I just speak to the points myself. If I was sitting on SportsCenter, say, and the producer came in my ear and said, hey, you've got 40 seconds to fill, we had to drop something or whatever the case might be. Whatever the segment was supposed to be, I'd either chat about that or I'd fall back on something. Like, I'd probably start talking about the Leafs. I'm such a nerd. Like, I like the Leafs. It would be SportsCenter, right? So the Leafs would always be relevant. But whatever you were talking about the moment beforehand, if you can expand on that, I don't know. Don't panic would be my big advice. You're still just chilling. If you start to panic, it becomes very apparent to the audience that you're panicking. Whereas if you stay chilling and you don't know what to say, but you're still chilling and you're talking a little bit, it's a lot less awkward. Everybody's gonna blow one. That is like major. Everybody's gonna blow one. I blew a hit so badly at a Steelheads game one time that it kept me up like for a week. The camera went on me. It was an ad read, so it wasn't like I was really talking about hockey. I was doing an ad read or something like that. And the light went on me and I was like, I have no idea what I was just gonna say. And I couldn't really fill because it was an ad read. So everyone's gonna blow one. So once you get out of the way, good on you. You're past it. How to turn, okay, so you're supposed to be like, think about playing a hockey game. You're all jammed up before you go on the ice. And I think you should have the same feeling before you go on the air. Like, it's adrenaline as opposed to nerves. So if I feel nervous and I am panicking a little bit before a broadcast, I generally try to channel that into adrenaline. And that's worked for me. Like I said, I'm a musical theater nerd, so I always learn to like sing and project from here. Yeah, so just make sure that it's coming from here. I've kind of a deep voice for a girl, and I think the more you try to talk from your chest, the more it projects, and like once you get into here, it gets a little bit raspy and a little bit higher. So always make sure that you're talking from here. Yes, 100%, because I wouldn't be at TSN right now. I probably wouldn't have been at the Steelheads had it not been for being a Ryerson sport media student and getting all the reps that I did with Rams Live. And through that, I was able to build a demo reel, and I even, like, the way I got in at TSN was that I was helping with a fourth year practicum project, and we went to London and we covered a football game. And the producer of that project was already in with Bar Down at TSN, and he passed my name along when they were looking to grow their team. So the education is great. Obviously, I learned a lot of things at Ryerson, but you're essentially connecting with a lot of people that you're going to have to work with in the future. I firmly believe that if you work harder than everyone else, you will be impossible to ignore. Like, I just went to every sports event, and I bothered everyone until eventually somebody thought I was good and gave me a shot. So yes, but also you have to work hard. You can't just go to school and go through the motions and expect that a degree in sport media. Okay, good. That's what I was trying to say. That is what I was trying to say. You can't just go to school and go through the motions. You have to do extra stuff as well. I navigate this on a day-to-day basis, especially with Leafs Lunch now, because Leafs Lunch has a very traditional audience, and they brought me to Leafs Lunch with the intention of trying to attract a younger audience and freshen the show up and just make it sound lighter and a little bit younger. And I fight with this balance every day, because if you go too far to one side, you scare away your traditional demographic. If you go too far to the other side, if you're too serious, then you're not fun at all. So the biggest advice I can give you is that no one's a 100% full-time goof. Not even me, though it seems like I am sometimes. If you are yourself, like, just be, it's such lame advice, but like when I started to really own who I was, like when I really thought, okay, Julia, like, you don't try to be Andy Petrillo, don't try to be Caper Ness, don't try to be anyone, like, who am I as an individual? I know hockey, and fairly seriously know hockey, but also I like to joke around. So trying not to think about it so much and just actually being myself, because like I can have a serious conversation and slide in a couple jokes, and I think that's what I try to do in broadcasts as well.
We're going to touch back on personal stuff, and then a few more questions, and then we're going to wrap up here. Is there something you haven't done yet in the on-air industry that you hope to do before your career's over? Obviously, you're young, so you're long. But anything in particular?
A ton of things. I hope I'm on the Leafs regional broadcast this year or maybe next year. I really want to do play-by-play at TSN, which I hope I'll have the opportunity to do soon. But I don't know. I haven't done play-by-play in like a year and a half now. And now I'm on the radio every day, so it's kind of hard to get reps in and things like that. But go to the World Juniors. I've covered the World Juniors before, but never be at the World Juniors. I'm a big junior hockey nerd. Cover the Memorial Cup. Again, big junior hockey nerd, and TSN has those rights now. A ton of things, but all of those would be highlights for me.